Hey guys, JH, welcome to Practice Tea. Okay, really terrible practice tea today. It's cold and it's so windy. And it's been raining and the ground's wet and the range is full, so I'm over in the cow paddock. Okay guys, what I want to talk to you about today, and again carrying on with our theme of general swing mechanics. It's not channel lock anymore, it's just general swing mechanics and what you can do within the parameters of a general or conventional golf swing to improve your golf swing, a general golf swing. Look at this, guys. Ground's all wet and muddy. Okay, guys, now one of the things I see with the rank and file or the club player, one of the most consistent issues I used to see when teaching was the inability of the club player or the rank and file player to use their hands correctly in the golf swing. They would either overuse them in the backswing too much and underuse them in the downswing too little. So what I came up with back in the days when I was teaching, regularly, was a procedure or a process that took out that overuse or that underuse. And guys, it was basically a departure from thinking about the hands at all as something you should do something with in a certain manner or apply a certain amount of hands in the golf swing. And what I came up with was what I call hands elimination golf swing. And by that, and I'm going to have to watch this camera, guys, it's blowing so hard it's going to blow the camera over. And by that I mean to consciously think that we don't want to use our hands in the golf swing. Now, for someone that's used their hands in the golf swing, it's very hard to take that out of your golf swing. But guys, you can. And the way you do it is what I came up with in terms, and I didn't come up with the description, but what I tried to get across to people was that we would release the golf club or apply the golf club to the ball by way of the pivot. The pivot acting as a process to apply the hands to the ball rather than the hands deliberately being a thinking process or an application of thinking where you've got to use your hands. If you can eliminate the thought of I want to use my hands and key on something else that's easier and not as manipulated, I just think it's better. And what I came up with, guys, was what I call the pivot release. And that is that we get connected with our arms on our chests. We basically swing the club back with momentum by pushing the chests and the arms back, the connection of those, like that, like the elephant's trunk. When we think about the elephant's trunk, that's what you want to have. You want to have your wrist feeling like the bottom portion of an elephant's trunk when it moves it from side to side. And of course it moves it off its big head. Now our big head is our shoulders. Our elephant's trunk gets moved by our shoulders pushing our arms and our hands. Now once we've got this going, which is the torso, and the shoulder girdle and the upper body, the torso, and we don't want to lose the momentum, guys. We don't want to be stiff and do that and have no momentum. The club head gets pushed and gains its momentum by the pushing of the arms and the hands by the torso. Now what we want to do in the downswing is reverse that procedure. What does that mean, JH? Well, it means that we're taking the club back with our torso here and letting our hips react accordingly here. So on the downswing we're going to do the same. Once we're here and we're connected, we don't think about the hands anymore. All we think about is just bringing the pivot, and that's this here, bringing the pivot back down to the ball. Here. We just bring the club into the ball by turning the pivot. Now we don't want to roll the whole body, because if we roll the whole body we're going to have the shoulders turning, club outside, and we'll get a drag. We want to keep our shoulders square, but feel like this part here is turning under the shoulders, like that. See how that lead side is getting very, very strong? And what's happening is that lead side is actually what I feel, personally, I feel like this here is slowing down. That's slowing, and this here is moving underneath that slowing upper body. Here, like that. And all I do to get the club to the ball, guys, is I just push the pivot, and the pivot being my belly button. I just push the pivot. You know, I just push the pivot. I don't apply my hands at all. I'm just pushing the pivot. Just push the pivot. Now that's a little abbreviated version of what I want to do in the big swing. I want to have exactly that feeling of just this, the handle and the club head being pushed by the pivot here. I'm not applying the hands, I'm just pushing. I'm just pushing the pivot here. And the connection here, guys, in the upper body brings the club in. And you'll maintain that trail wrist angle. That will stay there a long time in a pivot release. That's why Hogan had that look about him. His trail wrist was like that, which made him give that bowed lead wrist. He never tried to bow the lead wrist. That was a resultant. He just kept that in that position there, and if you keep that right wrist hinged and bent like that, it makes this lead wrist bow up like that. That's the reason it does that. Nobody ever talks about that. But there's no question in my mind that that's exactly what happened. He had more emphasis on keeping that trail wrist hinged than he did on having that forward wrist bone raised. The wrist bone was raised, but it wasn't because he was thinking of doing that. Even though I think he said on occasions, or was purported to have said in print, that he did concentrate on that. But all you've got to do is keep that there, and that looks like that, look. So in order to get that, guys, we're pushing back with the chest here, and then we're coming in, we're connected, we're just going to push the pivot. Going to fire it back, push the pivot. Now the wind is really strong here, and that's just a beautiful shot. Okay, it's a little, a little 3/4 punch shot out of deep wet grass. But you can hear the contact on that. It's just beautiful. And what it does is it takes out the variation of under release or over release with the hands. They're getting pulled in automatically. They're getting pulled in automatically by the pivot. Now that's just a little 3/4 golf swing, guys, but this is a 5-iron. But it's just a perfect pure golf shot. I mean, the flight is just exquisite, absolutely exquisite. And with this microphone you can't hear real impact, but that is really good contact. Now, and all we do, guys, and I haven't hit any balls, they're the first balls I've hit today, but all we do to extrapolate that up to a full swing is just make a bigger pivot. Just make a bigger turn and a big pivot. The bigger the turn, the more you will have a return reactive amount of pivot releasing the golf club. So here we are, and we hunker down into our legs, We just push it back, and we just, oh wow. It's just such a good, and you know what's interesting, guys? I have no thought association of my hands and what I have to do with my hands or what I have to do with the blade. I have none of that. All I'm thinking about is that belly button there, is moving that belly button there and keeping this lead shoulder up and closed. Here. Now what it does is it makes the hands push down. All right, we're warmed up now, we'll hit a full shot. So I've got a lot of connection. Push it away. Just wish we had the shot tracer on. Now that's 5-iron into that headwind, guys. And it's like 40 Ks. And that's just, it's just killing that 5-iron. But the flight is just perfect. It's really strong, the wind. But the ball doesn't move, guys. It doesn't move. And what does it feel like? It just feels like this. It feels like I've got all this welded here and in my armpits here. Everything's just welded and I just pull it through. I pull it through my chest and my belly button. I'm hinging in the backswing, pushing it back, hinging, getting the momentum, and then I'm just firing the pivot. But guys, you must have the connection. If you get any disconnection, the arms away from the chest, your hands will become active. So you're basically hitting it with your chest, and your hands are just going along for the ride. Get into your legs, push it back with the chest. It's just a brilliant, consistent way to hit the golf ball. It really is. I mean, that ball flight, I never saw Hogan hit it, but I saw Mo Norman hit lots of shots, but I never saw Hogan hit it, but I can imagine his ball flight would have been, not putting myself in the Hogan category. I am in the Hogan category, but it's more like Hulk Hogan or Paul Hogan, not Ben Hogan. But guys, that ball flight is perfect. So having perfect ball flight, and we would suggest that Hogan would have hit that all the time, then that's the result that he would have got. So I'm into my legs here, look. I'm like, that's what we call the runner's stance. Martin Ayers used to talk about the runner's stance. We're ready to run. Now we hunker down, we get connected. Right, we hit a full shot. And guys, see where the ball is? It's sort of centered. It's centered because that's where I have my hands. I don't have them forward and I don't have them back. I just have them centered. And that's where my ball position is for me, in a conventional golf swing. I don't want it up here because it upsets my balance. I just put it here in the middle of my body. We're just going to push it back and pull it through. It's just such perfect flight. And hitting into the wind, it's just sensational flight. Amazing flight. I'll do the same with the driver, guys. Absolutely, guys. Those shots, every one of those shots were identical. They were perfect ball flight. I'll just get... They were perfect ball flight. I mean, I couldn't hit better ball flight than that. Okay, exactly the same with the driver. Identical. Might have the ball a little bit further forward. Here it is, it's very connected. I'm hunkered down. Now, just came down. And guys, we're hitting into, say 40, 45k wind. But it's just perfect, absolutely perfect. What does it feel like coming through? Feels like this. Feels like this. Feels like the club is releasing left, but the lead shoulder is up and closed. Lead shoulder's not down and around. Club is releasing over here. Okay, now I really get some momentum in the backswing. And the great thing, guys, if any of you guys are pullers or draggers, you're never going to pull or drag the ball with this action because the club's coming this way. Just handle in, club head out. All right, come on, Jace. Put a nice one. That's just a hard, flat power draw. I mean a really hard, flat power draw. Well, I'll try and, now I'm warmed up, I'll just take it back a little smoother. Grip is a little stronger. Push it back with the chest. Chest pushes it back. Connection, and then just pull it through with the belly button and the pivot. That's the pivot. That's what I feel, guys. The pivot pulls the club in like that. It's just really good contact. Okay, I'm doing things quick because of the camera, and I just noticed there's not much battery in the camera. The sun didn't charge it up. Okay, we'll do one more. We'll just do a really smooth one. Hit one this way, guys. Come on, just pivot. See how the club finishes over here, guys? You don't want it round like that. You always want the hands leading, and you'll basically finish like that. If you've hand thrown it or hand released it, you'll look like that. Now, considering that wind is coming across it, 40 k's, that ball's just holding its line into the wind. The swing's a bit abbreviated because it's windy and I'm trying to keep my balance. Come on, connect up, Jay. Push it back and come in and all right, one more. One more. Smooth it out, Jay. This way. Lots of connection. That's a line drive, guys. That's just flat, hard, and motoring into that wind. Just a line drive. Get into your legs. Yeah. Get the momentum. Just hitting a few shots, guys. See if I can slow it down. Last shot. Glue those arms in and just chest the ball. Come on. Fantastic, guys. Okay, it's called the pivot release. Takes the hands out of the shot. And if you're going to hit little pitch shots, it's fantastic for little pitch shots. you really get a really good flight. You're going to hit a little pitch shot. It's just a drag through, guys. Pivot. See that? Push it back, pivot it through. See here, guys, still got that angle. That's what you've got to feel. You'll know you've thrown your hands if that angle's gone. There it is, it's still there. It's just a beautiful action with a wedge, sensational action with a wedge. Arms are very close to the body. You'll always know you've pivot released if you've got that angle still there. If you've got that, you've thrown the pivot away. Go hit her. Okay guys, that's what we call a pivot release and taking all the hand action out of the golf swing for a conventional golf swing.